Welcome to the CAD Office training series for FDOT Connect for OpenBridge Modeler. My name is Joel Gutierrez and I am a structural engineer with WSP USA. In this video, we will be covering exercise 6.4 from the Bridge Design 3D Modeling and Plans course guide. This exercise demonstrates how to use the Civil Labeler tool to add dynamic labels to a drawing. Let's get started. So to start this video, I'll give a little background information on the Civil Labeler tool itself, and then we'll begin going step by step through exercise 6.4 and use the Civil Labeler tool to place callouts on the end bent and pier support lines. Then we will see how to make text edits to those callouts. And finally, we'll demonstrate the dynamic nature of those callouts. The Civil Labeler tool is one of the most useful tools at our disposal from a plans production perspective, especially when we're going through and annotating our bridge. It uses the fact that all 3D bridge models in OBM have to be tied to some roadway alignment, which contains civil data. And then that data can then be extracted through the Civil Labeler at a specific point to provide necessary information that we need to show on plans. So that would include anything from stationing or offset from an alignment or elevation. And then the labels are formatted when working in the FDOT workspace using text favorites and element templates so that they align with what we would typically show in an FDOT set of plans. These callouts have been created for several different disciplines. Obviously, for the purposes of OBM users, we're going to focus on the structures callouts, which you can see here. Then the last thing I'd like to touch on is the fact that these labels are fully dynamic. So as long as they are appropriately placed on a component and that component moves, the callout itself will move and the text displaying the data that's within the callout will update automatically. So for instance, if we have a support line that's labeled for a center line of pier, and we decide that that pier needs to shift by a couple of feet, then that pier's callout will update and the arrow will move with the support line. So now with some of that background information, we can get started working through the exercise. Now, first step will be to make sure that we're opening the correct files. So make sure you're in the B01 planelev 01 underscore 6.4 underscore begin DGN. And that should be an exact replica of what was done in the previous exercise 6.3, which is a plan and elevation sheet for our bridge. So once you open that up, we're going to open our plan underscore 1 drawing model. So you go down to the view group drop down list and select that drawing model, plan underscore 1. And next we're just going to turn off the levels for any of our 3D line work. We don't want any of our callouts to be wrongly associated with a 3D component. We want to place it only on a support line. So we'll access the level display and then turn off all of our 3D line work. So we can scroll down and turn off our pier caps and pier columns, as well as the end bent levels, and that should be it. Everything else should be just 2D line work. So with that set, we can now close the level display, and then we'll open up our Civil Labeler tool. So we'll go up to our Reports and Drawings tab, go over to our Labels group, and there should just be the one Civil Labeler tool in there. So once you've selected that tool, you'll notice all the different disciplines that we discussed earlier are shown here. We're going to go ahead and click on the Structures discipline, and then you'll see two different folders full of civil labels for a plan view and then one for a profile view. The profile has labels meant for an elevation when you're in a profile view, but we're going to be working in the plan view since ours is a plan view that we'll be labeling. And then you can notice several different labels have been set up here for the FDOT workspace. What we're going to be looking for is just a station for our NBent to start. So we'll go ahead and select the station underscore NBent civil label. Now within here, you'll notice all the different overrides that we can apply. If we wanted to change the element template, we could here. That's just going to control our levels, our line weights, any line styles, etc. That should just be left as is. And then the dimension style override and text style override, you can override those if you have any desire to. Once again, these should all already be set according to the FDOT workspace, so there shouldn't be any need to override those. And then lastly, you have a couple of other overrides that you can apply in terms of like if you want a text divider, if you wanted some kind of offset other than the 0.5 or an extension greater than or less than 1.5, but there should be no need to. So for this exercise, we're going to leave all these as the default option and click place. So now you'll notice that we're going to be prompted to select which alignment we want to base our callouts off of. So we'll select the alignment that's associated with our bridge by just left clicking on the alignment. And that should highlight the alignment. I'll move the labeler window out of the way here just so we can see. Next, since we want to make sure that we're clicking directly at the intersection of our support lines and our alignments, we're going to go ahead and click. You can double click on the intersect snap. And then from there, let's zoom in to where our front face of back wall support line is and click on the intersection of that support line and the alignment. So click there and you'll be prompted to click one more time so we can place where the actual call out is. So click once more, and then that, you'll notice, has updated the stationing and provided the front face of back wall NBent 1 call out there. Next, we're going to go through the same process except with the NBent 3, so the NBent at the end of the bridge. So we'll zoom out, scroll over to our NBent 3, and since we've already selected our station, since we've already selected the NBent station callout, there should be no need to reselect it, and we can just go ahead and click that intersection there, where front face of back wall for NBent 3 is, and we can click below the outside of the right barrier to finalize our selection and update our station. And that's populated the station data there. But the thing you will notice is that the front face of back wall for NBent 1 callout has not changed. So we will need to update that because that is just plain text. The only thing that is truly a data field in here is the actual station. So to update that, we can just use the edit text tool as you would with any other callout. We'll just go up to the drawing workflow, click on annotate, and then click edit text in the text group. Then you'll click on the callout, and you can see here that the data field that is actually linked to the program is going to be highlighted gray. So we don't want to mess with that. If we touch that or delete anything, it will unlink the callout, and it will no longer that data field will no longer update along with any movements we make to the model. So we want to make sure that any data fields we don't want to touch. However, any other text that's associated with the callout should be able to be changed. So we can just go over here, click or delete the 1, change it to a 3, and then left click in space over here, and that'll update our callout. So our next step will be to place our label on our the callout on our pier. If you still have your labeler window open, you can access it there. If you haven't, if you close that, then you can just re-access it through the Civil Label or through the Open Bridge Modeler workflow, reports and drawings, and then Civil Labeler. So with that window open, we're going to go ahead and click on our station_pier callout that's been created for us. And then we'll leave all of our overrides as is. Everything should be default. And then we'll click place. Next, we'll select our alignment again, and then click the intersection of our center line of pier for pier 2 and our alignment. And you can go ahead and just place that below the right barrier there. And you'll notice, once again, the station will update accordingly. Now the last callouts that we need to place are our begin approach slab and end approach slab callouts at the end of each bridge. So since we don't have a station callout for the approach slabs, what we can do is similar to what we did with NBent 3 and just select either the original station callouts, and then we'll just make edits to the note. And then we'll just make edits to the text. So we can stay in our station_pier label, and as long as you still have your alignment selected, we won't have to make any additional changes. We can zoom out, scroll over to approach slab 1, and we'll make sure that we're clicking on the intersection of our support line and our alignment. So left click there, move the callout down below and click to confirm its location. Then we'll once again, then as I mentioned, we'll go in to the drawing workflow, annotate tab, edit text, and we'll just update that callout. So change the centerline pier 2 to read begin approach slab. And then click into space to update that. And you'll see it come through there. And now we'll repeat that process with the end approach slab. So we'll go back to our Civil Labeler tool, click on the station_pier, place, select our alignment, and then click the intersection of our approach slab and the alignment. And then drop that below the approach slab, below the barrier. Then we can go back up to annotate, edit text, and then change this to be end approach slab. And then left click in space to confirm, and you can see that we have all of our callouts updated and showing the correct information, and it's showing the correct stations as well. And now we can go back up into our level display and just turn those 3D elements back on. So I'll go over to pier column, pier cap, and then NBent cheek wall and NBent cap. Once we close that, we can close the labeler tool as well, and you can see all of our information should be showing up correctly, along with all of our components back on the bridge. So the last portion of this exercise is going to be demonstrating the dynamic nature of the labels, and we're going to be using the station offset label to do so. So the first thing we're going to do is just place some line work that we can move around in the design model. So we'll go to the view group drop down list and go into our plan design model. So go ahead and click on that. Next, we're going to go up to our home tab, over to the placement group, and we're going to go to the place circle tool. This is just going to be the bit of line work that we are able to easily manipulate and move around to demonstrate the dynamic capabilities here. So click on the place circle tool. Make sure your method is set to center, and then toggle on your option here, your input option here. And if it's not set to radius, make sure you do set it to radius, and then just put an input of 5 feet. So with that, you can find a location below the right barrier here, and then around station 2021 plus 00, and then just left click below that point. You should place a simple circle right there. You can right click to escape that tool. So with that now in place, we can return back to our plan_1 drawing model. So go back to the view group drop down. We'll go to the plan_1 drawing model, and you'll see that that circle has popped up in here now. Next, we're actually going to place our label. So we'll go back up to our OpenBridge Modeler workflow, navigate over to Reports and Drawings, and click on the Civil Labeler tool. Once that opens back up, open up the Structures folder, Plan folder, and then we'll open the Station Offset label. And then we can leave all of these inputs as is, and then click Place. I'll move the labeler window to the side, and then we're going to click on the alignment to select it, and then we'll change our snap to key point snap. And then we're going to go ahead and click on the right side of our circle here. Once you have the point selected, we'll click one more time to confirm the location of the callout. You should have something around these lines, basically. It's not going to line up exactly because it's just an approximation, but you should have something around the 2021 plus 00 range. So we'll take note of what that callout is, and then I'm gonna update, and then we're gonna update it. Then we're gonna move the circle to see how the label will automatically update. So I will right click to get out of that label tool, and then we'll go over to our design model, and we're going to move the location of that circle. So we'll click the view group drop down here, click on our plan design model, and then we can just use the move tool in the drawing workflow to move that about 100 feet forward. We'll move it around 2022, and then I'll also slide it down a little bit so that we can see the offset change as well. Then we can get out of the move tool and go back to our plan drawing model. So go to the view group one last time, click on the plan_1 drawing model, and you should see the station increase about 100 feet or so, and then the offset has also updated from, mine was around 18-foot offset, now we're about 34. So that will conclude exercise 6.4. Next exercise will be 6.5, where we'll discuss placing tables from Excel. Thank you for watching this section of the training series for FDOT Connect. Additional training videos and course guides are available on the CAD Office Training webpage, which may be found at fdot.gov/CAD.